Monroe Evans III, paralyzed after being shot several times by police in a January confrontation in Midtown Omaha, pleaded not guilty during an arraignment Thursday to 4 felony-related counts relative to the incident. Evans' lawyer, James Martin Davis, asked that his client, who uses a wheelchair, be allowed to stay at home where his father can take care of him. Prosecutor John Allegaban, citing the difficulty the Douglas County Jail would face in taking care of Evans and other reasons, did not object. Evans, age 20, waived his right to a preliminary hearing and a speedy trial. District Court Judge Horatio Wheelock said in a pre-trial conference date of December 1. Evans was struck by police gunfire after firing at officers January 30th, police said. He is charged with assault of an officer, attempted assault on an officer, and 2 counts of using a firearm to commit a felony. Evans is paralyzed from the waist down, Davis said. 2 Omaha police officers, Jill Schellerberg and Matthew Skradsky, stopped Evans near 33rd and Turner Boulevard because he matched the description of a person seen looking into vehicles and checking for open car doors. Evans shot Schellerberg, grazing her left leg with a round from a 9mm handgun, according to police and court documents. Skradsky returned fire. 12 rounds were fired at Evans. He was hit 9 times, Davis said. Investigators found a fired round and spent casing at the scene that matched the gun Evans possessed, according to an affidavit. After the hearing, Davis said his client put himself in a bad situation, but never intended to hurt officers. He wrongly held that gun, but he didn't attempt to shoot the officers, Davis said. He's certainly going to accept responsibility for what he did, but he's not going to accept responsibility for what he didn't do.
These are the death notices and funeral arrangements in today's Lincoln Journal-Star. Doris I. Berry, 79 of Lincoln. Private family services interment will be at Wyaka Cemetery. Memorials to the family for a later designation. Brennan, Claudette May Brennan, 83 of Beatrice. Memorial service 10 a.m. Monday, August 28th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Davis, Miriam L. Davis. There isn't an age. Condolences to aspenaftercare.com. DeLong, Denise DeLong, 60 of Louisville. Celebration of life from 1 to 9 p.m. with family greeting friends from 6 to 8 p.m. Sunday, September 3rd at Fusselman Allen Harvey Funeral Home in Louisville. Memorials are suggested to the Lincoln Humane Society. Hare, Harre, Gladys Willamay Hare. There's no age for Gladys. Rosary service August 28th at Lincoln Memorial, followed by a memorial service at 12:30 p.m. Kaylin, Adeline May Kaylin, 4 days old. Private family graveside services will be held at Oak Grove Cemetery in DeWitt. Memorials can be sent in care of the family in DeWitt, Nebraska. Benrick Griffiths, Hovendick Chapel in DeWitt is handling that service. Lewis, Richard Allen Dick Lewis. He was a veteran. He was 86 years old. He's a veteran of the Navy. The family invites friends and loved ones to a celebration of Dick's life at 1 p.m. Saturday, August 26th at Colonial Chapel in Lincoln. Memorials may be made to the Food Bank of Lincoln Incorporated in Lincoln, Nebraska. Monter, Marvin L. Monter, 79, of Lincoln. Celebration of Life will be held at 11 a.m. Saturday, August 26th at Messiah Lutheran Church in Lincoln. Memorial suggested to be made to Emmanuel Lutheran Cemetery and Alzheimer's Foundations of America. Moorburg, Mary Lou Moorburg, 93, formerly of Grand Island. Mass of Christian burial, 10:30 a.m. August 30th at St. Leo's Catholic Church. Livingston Sonderman Funeral Home Chapel is handling the arrangements. Netland, Betty L. Netland, 86, of Lincoln. Funeral noon, August 26th at Wayaka Funeral Home in Lincoln. Owens, Norma Jean Owens, 90, of Lincoln. A celebration of life will be held at 10 a.m. Saturday, August 26th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be directed to Eastmont Towers or Bridges to Hope. Pearson, Steve L. Pearson, 72, of North Bend. A gathering will be held at 1 p.m. on August 27th at his residence. Hawaiian attire is welcomed. Memorials to the Blues Society of Omaha. Moser Memorial Chapel, North Bend, is handling these arrangements. Rankin, Patricia June Pat Rankin, 90, formerly of Hastings. Memorial services will be 2 a.m. Tuesday, August 29th at Lakeside Community Church of the Nazarene in Hastings. Memorials may be given to Care Actor Incorporated, Christian Athletes, or Youth for Christ. Livingston Butler Bolland Funeral Home and Cremation Center is serving the family. Ratzleff, Janet Francis Ratzleff, 71, of York. A massive Christian burial will be held 2 p.m. Monday, August 28th at St. Joseph Catholic Church in York. Memorials may be directed to the family for later designation. Sievers, Shirley Keeney Sievers, 83, of Bennington. Memorials service will be 10:30 a.m. Saturday, August 26th at Home for Funerals in Norfolk. Memorial donations may be made to St. Augustine Indian Mission in Winnebago or Bread for the World in Washington, D.C. Remington, Teresa Faye Shadley Remington, age 72, formerly of Shell Knob, Missouri. A celebration of life open house will be held from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, September 2nd at Rosie's Sports Bar. Memorials may be directed to the ALS or Lincoln Food Bank. Velgerdsky, I'm going to spell that one, Velgersdyk, Michael L. Velgerdsky. I don't have an age on him. Born October 30th, 1969. Celebration of Life, 11:30 a.m. Saturday, August 26th, with all services at Horizons Community Church. Memorial suggested to Horizons Community Church youth programs and Camp Sunshine of Nebraska. Walter Joseph Philip Walter, 60, of Lincoln. Services pending with Butterus, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home. West, Mary Lou West, 80, of Ashland. Celebration of Life, 11 a.m. Saturday, August 26th at Riverview Community Church in Ashland. Marcy Mortuary is handling the service. Miller, Arlene J. Miller, age 78, and there is no other information about this one. And finally, Wawita, Arbella A. Wawita, 82, of Wahoo, massive Christian burial, 10:30 a.m. with 10 a.m. rosary on Saturday, August 26th at St. Wenceslas Catholic Church. Visitation at Swoboda Funeral Home in Wahoo, internment at St. John Cemetery in Weston. Memorials to Saunders County Historical Society or St. Wenceslas Catholic Church in Wahoo.
Okay, and these obituaries from the Omaha World Herald as of August 25, 2017. Anderson, Richard Norris Anderson, age 94, a United States veteran. Services will be Saturday, August 26, 2017, at 10:30 a.m. at Calvary Lutheran Church in Sweetholm, Nebraska. Mr. Anderson was from Stromsburg, Nebraska. Interment will be at Stromsburg Cemetery with military rites. Dubas Funeral Home in Stromsburg is handling the arrangements. Mara Antonia Belpero, age 62, of Omaha. No services planned at this time. Roeder Mortuary, Ames Chapel, is in charge of arrangements. Blair, Charlene Blair, age 82. Family will receive friends on Saturday, August 26th from 8:30 a.m. till 10 a.m. at Prince of Peace Church, followed by services at 10 a.m. at the church. Interment, Forest Lawn Memorial Park. Kane, Marilyn Jepson Holman Kane. Services Friday, 11 a.m. at the Maplewood United Methodist Church. Memorials to Sienna Francis House or Maplewood United Methodist Church. Chandler, Jocelyn L. Mickey Chandler, age 85. Services will be Friday, August 25th at 10:30 a.m. at the Ralston United Church of Christ. Drelichar, I'm going to spell that, please. Drelichharz, Marilyn M. Carolyn was 79 years old. Mass of Christian burial will occur on Tuesday, August 29th at 10:30 a.m. at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Bellevue. Fader, Carol Juanita Fader, age 84. Services will be Friday, August 25 at 7 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel at 121st and West Center Road. Memorials to Bickford Assisted Living. Fasinek, Raymond J. Fasinek, age 81. Services Saturday, 10 a.m. at the John A. Gentleman, Bellevue, Sarpy County Chapel. Memorials directed by the family. Giroux, Phyllis Marie Giroux, 81. Mass of Christian burial Saturday, August 26th at 10 a.m. at Christ the King Catholic Church. Memorials to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Gruey, Joseph A. Gruey, age 98. Mass of Christian burial will be Saturday, August 26th at 10:30 a.m. at Holy Cross Catholic Church. Memorials to Holy Cross Educational Trust. Griffith, Marilyn Griffith. Marilyn will be laid to rest at the graveside service at Evergreen Memorial Park Cemetery in Omaha, Nebraska on Tuesday, August 29th. Crosby Burkett Swanson Golden Chapel is in charge of responsibilities there. Guyer, James E. Guyer, age 68, a United States veteran. Services will be held on Saturday, August 26th at 1 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel on 121st and Center Road with military honors by the American Legion Post 1. Memorials may be made to the American Cancer Society. Hamilton, Charles Albert Hamilton, age 92. Services will be held in a celebration of life at the Sunset Hills Baptist Church in Omaha. In lieu of flowers, Doc's wish was that any memorials be made to the American Heart Association or the Alzheimer's Association. House, Ruby House, age 91, of Fremont, Nebraska. Funeral services will be 10:30 a.m. Saturday, August 26th at the Arlington Community Church in Arlington, Nebraska. Memorials may be directed to the Masonic Eastern Star Home for Children or the Arlington Community Church. Johnson, Patricia Ann Johnson, age 77. Memorial services Saturday, August 26th at 1 p.m. at West Lawn Hillcrest West Lawn Hillcrest. Memorial suggested to the Alzheimer's Association. Joseph, Paul E. Joseph, age 74, from Long Pine, Nebraska. A celebration of life service will be held on Monday, August 28, 2017, at 10:30 a.m. at Hawk Funeral Home in Ainsworth, Nebraska. Kaufman, Francis A. Buzz Kaufman, age 78. Memorial services Friday, 3 p.m. at St. Robert Bellarmine Catholic Church. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to the Nebraska Humane Society. Crotina, James John Crotina, age 82. Memorial services Saturday, August 26th at 10:30 a.m. at West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home. Memorials will be directed by the family. Krupinski, let me spell that, Kwapnioski, Donald P., age 85, also a United States veteran. He served in the Navy and was a Korean War veteran. Memorial services are Saturday, August 26th at 10 a.m. at First Presbyterian Church, 35th and Farnham. McDaniel, Lucy S. McDaniel, age 87. Visitation will be Saturday, August 26th at 10 a.m. at Bethany Funeral Home. Celebration of Lucy's life following at 11 a.m. Bethany Funeral Home at 82nd and Harrison. Meyer, Judy F. Meyer, age 67, of Council Bluffs. Funeral 10 a.m. Monday at the funeral home. Interment at Memorial Park Cemetery. The funeral home is the Hoy Klonowski Funeral Home and Crematory in Council Bluffs. Timothy Morrison, age 55. Mass of Christian burial at 10 a.m. Graveside services Saturday at 1 p.m. at the Resurrection Cemetery. Memorials to the American Cancer Society, Alzheimer's Association, or the Nancy Flaherty Senior Consulting Dementia Care. Heafy Hoffman, Dwyer Cutler, Bel Air Chapel in charge of arrangements. Pagler, V.J. Pagler, age 87. Memorial services Friday, August 25 at 2 p.m. at Good Shepherd Lutheran Community in Blair, Nebraska. Pilgrim, Robert L. Pilgrim, age 77. No public services at this time. Memorials are suggested to the Nebraska Alzheimer's Association or the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Rumsey, Margaret M. Rumsey, age 90. Memorial services at 7 p.m. at the mortuary. I don't have a date on that, I'm sorry to say. Friday at 5 p.m., I'm sorry. Scholler, Jeffrey Lynn Scholler, age 60. Memorial services Saturday, August 26th at St. John's Lutheran Church. Rotor Mortuary Ames Chapel is in charge of arrangements. Schneider, Farron S. Schreiner, age 8. The family will receive friends Saturday, August 26th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel. Heafy Hoffman, Dworak Cutler at 121st and Center. Memorials may be directed to the family. Schaffer, Dorothy I. Schaffer, age 93. Memorial service is 2 p.m. Saturday, August 26th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to Lincoln Young Life or First Baptist Church in Lincoln. Local arrangements are under the care of the Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home in Lincoln, Nebraska. Silman, Stephen W. Silman, age 56. The family will receive friends on Friday, August 25, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the Millard Public School Foundation, Heafy Hoffman, Dworak Cutler, Bel Air Chapel at 121st and Center. Luann Sundberg, age 63. Celebration of Life services will be Saturday, August 26th at 4 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be directed to the family. Vaughn, Pamela A. Vaughn. Celebration of Pam's life will be held on September 16th at 11:30 a.m., followed by a luncheon at the Countryside Community Church at 87th and Pacific Street. John A. Gentleman Mortuary at 72nd Street Chapel is in charge of arrangements. Wade, Maurice Anthony Wade, age 55, a United States veteran. Funeral services will be 10 a.m. Monday, August 28th, 2017. Forest Lawn Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. Wade, Wallace D. Wade, age 73. Funeral services is at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Interment is on Monday in the National Cemetery in Omaha. Memorials are suggested to the Wound Your Warriors Project or the Alzheimer's Association. Wota, Averla A. Wota, excuse me, age 82, of Wahoo, Nebraska. Mass of Christian burial, Saturday, August 26, 10:30 a.m. Memorials to Saunders County Historical Society or St. Wenceslaus Catholic Church.
Listeners' memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donor's choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter.
All right. Thank you, Bev.
Okay,
and
we're going to have to cut one of this. We're going to have to get back on track here.
You're listening to the Radio Talking Book Services in
opinion.
Omaha, Nebraska.
No break.
Now he's going to give us a
Serving
break,
the
2 minutes.
sight-impaired for over 40 years.
Excuse me.
We have a special set up for us by
Oh, he's got that mic turned off.
Laboratory where researchers are developing.
I'll start with editorials, but let's not go all the way to 11:20. I mean, we're not going to be able to. We're going to have. We're going to when 11:20 hits. We're
searching for how do we put plastic.
What I'm saying is we're not going to go 18 minutes. When 11:20 hits, we're going to switch to the next thing to get back on track. Okay.
That maybe
you know what I'm saying? We're not going to read 18 minutes worth of editorials. When 11:20 hits on that, we're going to switch to just like it says on here.
Okay, fine.
So, for example, trying to introduce a drug to a cancer
sometimes
cell,
they look at 20 minutes worth of stuff, or sometimes they look at the clock.
To target that delivery to
the
that
clock is
disease
what we
site.
need here. So I'll start to give you a chance to test your voice.
Years ago. The body is very good at preventing things from entering.
I can tell you were starting to have trouble.
Well, I wasn't. There's nothing I could do about it. There's 8 million people died.
Things in this world. And,
see, but that's what, when you read that last story.
Which also has a cellular membrane.
I shouldn't have.
You shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because it was 10:40 then, and that would have got us on. You got to really give yourself time. Because it takes so long, much longer.
And by the way, don't kill myself.
What I didn't realize
don't kill me. Don't hurt me in any way. Only do the positive. So coming up with that chaperone.
Well, it's just a closed circuit for the office.
You can watch it on internet.
That's a completely different area.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because I'm thinking I did some things like spit out the lozenge and do a couple of other things that I didn't realize we were on. And I looked over there.
Blind.
Well, I know, but not the people who watch it on. People actually do watch it too. It's really weird.
That's a big challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something
I
like
was just going to say,
this
don't scratch or anything.
So we need to have good partnerships between
Okay, I
biologists
got a couple.
Editorials, is that,
and chemists.
what section is that
It's,
in the
I think
Herald?
it's on the back of the, it's different now. You'll find it. It's,
All right. We've returned now to Bev and Howard with the second hour of reading the Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star.
okay, this is Bev Leidig again, reading now from the Lincoln Journal-Star, and I'm going to start with some letters to the editor. Hold on just a second and we'll get there. Okay, here we go. This first letter is from Donal H. Seigenbein from Lincoln. People want to change the name of Lee Barracks in West Point because it honors Robert E. Lee. So honor his uncle, Light Horse Harry Lee, the Revolutionary War hero, by changing the name to Lee Barracks. Save their taxpayers some money and get back to trying to solve poverty, ignorance, and want. Here's a letter from Kim Peterson of Phoenix. I just saw President Trump on the news talking about General John Pershing, the top U.S. general in World War I for the American forces. I grew up around Lincoln and have visited the Pershing home. I have seen many events in the auditorium that bears his name. I am a little perturbed when Trump incorrectly calls him a war criminal. The president said that Pershing shot 49 Muslims, prisoners of war, with bullets dipped in pig's blood because of their religious beliefs, to send a message to their compatriots. This debunked myth is just fake news. I have always been proud of General John Blackjack Pershing and my grandpa, Alfred Peterson, who fought the Germans under his command. This last letter is from Garrett Streaks of Lincoln. What is college really about? Is it an opportunity to receive a higher education, or is it just another way that someone can attempt to control the thoughts of a new generation? In my second semester as a student at Midland University in Fremont, I was a member of the education department pursuing a teaching degree. As the 2016 presidential election had just wrapped up, President Donald Trump had just confirmed Betsy DeVos as his Secretary of Education. As a registered Republican, I supported the president and his choice for the job. However, my education professor and the National Education Association did not. Obviously, many people did not approve of our new president or his pick for Secretary of Education. But what I will say next concerned me deeply. After the president made his appointment, myself and my fellow classmates were prompted by our professor to go onto the NEA website and send our opinions to the president. Curious, I got onto the website, entered in my contact information, clicked submit, and just like that, my opinion was sent. I had absolutely no idea what was even sent because I had not, in fact, written any of my own thoughts at all. After doing some research, I found what had been sent. It was just a letter berating and criticizing the president. Today's college campuses suppress free thought and attack you for being anything but liberal. This scares me, and I hope something can be done. Trump in 2020.
This is the editorial from the Omaha World Herald today, written by the editorial staff. Nearly a decade ago, Nebraska abruptly launched a controversial effort to privatize child welfare services, the care and support for vulnerable children facing crisis situations at home. These home emergencies arise from mental health issues, substance abuse concerns, financial problems, or abuse and neglect. Nebraska's attempt at child welfare privatization wasn't adequately planned or funded, however, and it triggered major disruption and instability. A series of private providers dropped out. Exception, Nebraska Families Collaborative, formed by Boys Town and other Omaha area providers. The nonprofit organization continues to handle the cases in Douglas and Sarpy County, while the State Department of Health and Human Services handles cases in the rest of Nebraska. Matt Walden, the new Children and Family Services Director for HHS, was right this week when he said that it's in the public interest for the state and the Nebraska Family Collaborative to work constructively with each other to ensure children receive needed care. Differences in perspective will arise at times between HHS and the collaborative, but it's imperative that the two organizations keep any disagreement from undercutting the quality of care. The collaborative handles about 5,000 child welfare cases a year, just under half the state's total. Nebraska's child welfare system has made progress in several ways since its privatization effort all but collapsed. NFC, for example, has made improvement in regard to child safety, social worker caseload, permanent placement, and placement with relatives. The legislature and Governor Pete Rickus took an important step this year by approving funding for a 6th juvenile court judge for Douglas County. That step should go far in reducing delays that currently leave too many foster children in limbo for extended periods. Considerable challenges remain for Nebraska child welfare system, both statewide and in the Douglas County area. Federal standards for such services are being tightened. Turnover among frontline personnel is far too high. Above all, the Nebraska Families Collaborative acknowledges children are removed from homes in Douglas and Sarpy County at too high a rate, especially in regard to children of color. Additional uncertainties remain. State funding falls well short of meeting Nebraska's behavioral health needs, burdening the children on the welfare system with dire consequences. The federal government may make major changes to the Medicaid program, creating possible complications. The collaborative current contract will expire in mid-2019, and contract negotiations with the state always prove complicated and challenging in hashing out payment rates and other specifics. Nebraska's child welfare situation, then, is a mixed one. Plenty of positive, but also many challenges. A key to further progress is a positive working relationship between the state, the Nebraska Family Collaborative, So far, they're sending the right message of cooperation.
Here's an opinion from the staff of the Lincoln Journal-Star. They saw, presuming it wasn't too cloudy, Nebraska conquered. In the span of 3 hours, with the big show lasting a maximum of 157 seconds, what was billed as the Great American Eclipse passed over Nebraska and into Missouri, not to mention the record books. Years of planning and promotion went off without any hitch, beyond some pesky clouds that rolled into southeastern Nebraska right around the moment of totality. Monday's total solar eclipse drew hundreds of thousands of visitors to visit the good life, according to the Nebraska Tourism Commission, which also estimated the state received $133 million in publicity related to the phenomenon. Those numbers are staggering, likely proving true Governor Pete Ricketts' prediction last month that the eclipse would be the state's largest ever tourism event. One thing that can't be quantified, though, is the impressive show of unity that stretched from border to border along Nebraska's 436-mile path of totality. Calling it Nebraska nice, while accurate, would be a bit corny. Thousands of people from all across the country and world came together, whether in Alliance, Ravenna, Lincoln, Beatrice, Falls City, or elsewhere, for a collective experience, became friends, even if only for a matter of minutes or hours, to share stories in a rare celestial occurrence. Anecdotes stretched from the Wyoming state line to the Missouri River. Italian travelers and Nebraskans overcame a language barrier at a Hyannis gas station. Players from the Lincoln Salt Dogs and Gary South Shore Railcats lay on the grass to stare at the sky during their baseball game's eclipse delay. Yes, dogs and cats took in the eclipse together without mass hysteria. Even on the steps of the state capitol, the site of protests and rallies often fueled by anger and disagreement, people united for a communal experience, the scene in the heavens that transcended the daily grind on the ground. The differences that so often divide, language, ideologies, geography, etc., fell by the wayside as all looked to the sky. For many who witnessed the eclipse, those memories will be just as indelible as the sky going dark. Participating in the moment with complete strangers from around the country and the globe who piled into Nebraska will be remembered as fondly as seeing the surrounding landscape dim, being illuminated only by the solar corona that stretched far enough to be seen beyond the moon's outline. The Cornhusker State won't again be in the path of a total solar eclipse until May 3rd, 2106, outside of most of our lifetimes. Still, it's clear that Nebraskans and our worldwide guests made this one count.
And here are three items from the Omaha World Herald Public Pulse. We're going to limit this to 2 or 3 items just simply because of time. The first one is written by Beth Norris of Papillia, Nebraska. She writes, "This summer has been very deadly on the roads in the Omaha and western Iowa area. A vehicle can be a very deadly weapon when it is not driven with care. Your eyes, need to be on the road in front of you, down the road to see what traffic is doing, and scanning to the right and left to see if traffic is entering your lane. Traffic accidents are rarely truly accidents and usually could have been prevented by one or more of the other drivers involved. A car is not a toy. A car is not a mobile phone and a texting booth. A car can be a very deadly weapon when not driven, with 100% attention. Please, please, please slow down. Pay attention and drive defensively. Lives are being lost on our streets unnecessarily." This next one from Brenda Ray in Fremont, Nebraska. "The criticism of President Donald Trump not giving details about the war plan in Afghanistan is ludicrous and shows the ignorance of the critics. University of Nebraska football coach Mike Riley doesn't give his opponents or the general public a play-by-play description of how he plans to have the team win against the opponent. And that is only a football game. Why in the world would anyone expect our president to give the enemy a play-by-play about something so strategic and life-threatening as war? The next one is written by Jim Trummer of Omaha, Nebraska. He writes, "My question is this. If the neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan and the skinheads would have waved swastikas and made the Nazi salute in the weeks after D-Day, how do you think people in the public would respond? It would have been them and the vehicles probably that would have been a tank." And lastly, by Joe Higgins of Omaha, in the years following World War II, the world asked the German people, "Why did you not speak out? Did you not see what was happening around you? How could you let your government treat people like that?" Today, the world is asking the American people, "Why do you not speak out? Do you not see what is happening around you? How can you let your government treat people like that?" What will our answer be?
We're going to move now to our living and entertainment sections of our newspapers. I'm going to start with the recent letters to Amy. Dear Amy, I recently retired from a very large organization. During my 20-plus years working there, I became acquainted with literally hundreds of people. Some of these are dear friends that I want to keep in touch with forever. Some are people I was friendly with at work, but not outside of work. And some I was friendly with at work only because I had to be, not because I liked them. I met my husband at work, and naturally we have dozens, if not hundreds, of mutual acquaintances. I was looking forward to retirement when I could relax and enjoy my true friends and let go of all the rest. Enter the era of social media. I get frequent friend requests from former workmates who I never knew personally in the decades we were employed together. My personal rule in accepting social media friends is, if we weren't really personal friends before, I don't accept the social media friend requests from former workmates. My husband and I worked with another married couple for decades. We never socialized together outside of work. He is one of my husband's social media friends. She is of my third category of former workmates, one who I really was looking forward to having out of my life. What do I do about the wife who keeps asking her husband to ask my husband why I haven't accepted her social media friend request? Do I continue to ignore her request and neither confirm nor reject? Do I accept it but block my newsfeed from seeing the posts? I don't believe in unnecessarily hurting other people's feelings, but what do I do? Signed, Wishing to Retire in Peace. Dear Wishing to Retire in Peace, stick to your guns and run your own social media empire the way you want to. Your husband could pass along this statement. My wife is in charge of her own social media. You could dodge this by accepting the friend request and then hiding this person's posts, but don't do this unless it would serve your own interests in some way. If this former coworker wants to actually befriend you, she can contact you personally. Here's the next letter to Amy. Dear Amy, my husband and I live in the city. In January, we decided to let one of our friends who gained employment to live with us temporarily until he and his wife could find a good apartment somewhere convenient for their family's commute. It has been 8 months now, and this couple is not in a hurry to settle down in their own home. I am getting tired and I need my space. They said they would move out in August and have not done so. They found a house and turned down the offer. This couple has not bought a single household item or given us even a small gift since moving in. Am I expected to continue to give, or do you think I have done my part? I am really getting impatient, but do not want to lose my friend. Signed, Trapped. Dear Trapped, yes, you've done your part. In fact, you've done your part and their part. I don't think you should have to continue to provide housing for this couple, but you seem to be on the fence about it. The fastest way to lose this friendship is for you to continue to accept a situation that eats away at your relationship. Understand that this freeloading will continue until you decide it has to stop. Before the friendship disintegrates completely, you should say to them, well, it's been 8 months. It's really time for me to get my house back, so you're going to have to find other housing. Don't pile on details and complaints. Keep a smile on your face and present this as a simple fact. If they don't make a move right away, you will have to give them a firm deadline. And finally, here's the last letter to Amy. I'd like to offer some wonderful in-law advice that was given to me years ago and has worked wonderfully in my 20+ years of marriage. When there is a problem with in-laws, the married couple should discuss the problem, reach a solution, and then each spouse deals with their own people. I always deal with my family, and my husband always deals with his family. This has really helped my strained relationship with the in-laws. Signed, Jay. Dear Jay, being on the same page with your spouse is the necessary first step. Communicating separately to family members is good advice.
Okay, this one we've heard about a number of times throughout the media, and this is relative to the Powerball winner who, according to her, is calling it quits. A 53-year-old Massachusetts hospital worker stepped forward Thursday to claim the biggest undivided lottery jackpot in U.S. history. $758.7 million after breaking the news to her employer the way the rest of us can only dream. I called and told them I will not be coming back. The first thing I want to do is just sit back and relax, according to Mavis, who lives nearby in Braintree, Massachusetts. She chose to take a lump sum payment of $480 million, or $336 million after taxes, according to lottery officials. The previous evening, she recalled she was leaving work with a firefighter and remarked, "It's never going to be me. It's just a pipe dream. And I've always had that dream." Then she read the number on her ticket and realized it was her. She has worked as a hospital worker at Mercy Medical Center in Springfield, Massachusetts, for quite some time. About a month ago, she shared a post on Facebook joking that she needed a vacation. Quote, "And by vacation," the post read, "I mean I need to move away and find a new job, on the beach somewhere, with rum." The jackpot is the second largest U.S. lottery prize, but Wednesday's big prize is still dwarfed by a $1.6 billion Powerball jackpot divided among 3 winners in January 2016. The winning ticket was sold at the Pride Station and Store in Chicopee. The store will receive $50,000 for selling the jackpot winner. Bob Bulldog, owner of Pride Store chain, said the proceeds would be donated to a local charity. "We're happy for our customer," he said, "and we're happy for all the charities that will be recipients." The winning numbers were 6, 7, 16, 23, 26, and the Powerball number was 4. The winner bought the ticket, 2 computer generated and 3 using numbers that she chose. The winning ticket, she said, was one with numbers that used family birthdays. Her inspiration for the final digit, the Powerball number, came from her penchant for playing the number 4 number every time she is at a Keno game with her mother, stepfather, and a friend. She will be walking away with $336 million after taxes.
Here's the advice today from columnist John Rosemond. The question: our son attends first grade at the local public school. At the beginning of the school year, all the parents were basically told that we are expected to go to the school's parent website every day to keep up with our kids' homework assignments. In addition, the parent portal, as it is called, also lets us know what we are expected to help with at home. In effect, we are being made responsible for what, in our estimation, is a teacher's responsibility. We are expected to know the material, monitor homework, and see to it that every assignment is not only done, but done properly. I've talked to several other parents who are not inclined to cooperate, but we all feel like we're caught between a rock and a hard place. Advice? And John Roseman answers, a very good friend of mine with 3 school-age children says, these parent portals bring a whole new level of crazy to parental over-involvement. From the get-go, my friend let her children know that they were wholly responsible for their homework assignments and that their job was to make sure she and their father never had to get involved. These parent homework portals take advantage of ubiquitous parent anxiety, born largely by mothers who seem to think that their children's grades reflect the quality of their parenting regarding school achievement, and successfully turn many parents/moms into micromanaging enablers. In so doing, teachers transfer a significant amount of responsibility for academic instruction to the home. It is a fact without exception that enabling weakens. In this case, it weakens a child's sense of personal responsibility and is therefore self-fulfilling. The more the parent enables, the more enabling the child in question seems to need. I can't becomes a frequent complaint. This practice is supported neither by history, current research, or common sense. In the 1950s, when parental involvement in homework was generally very low to non-existent, student achievement at every grade level was significantly higher than it is today. Consistent with that statistic, recent research finds an inverse relationship between parent homework involvement and student achievement, a relationship that holds regardless of student ability or demographics. Finally, common sense will confirm that the more personally responsible a person is, the better a job he or she will do, regardless of the task. Why, in the face of this overwhelming evidence, do schools persist in pushing a policy that makes no sense? The answer has to do with the rigidity of bureaucracies as well as administrative obsession with achievement test scores. The sad fact is that this counterproductive policy is not going to change anytime soon. So what's a parent to do? Do what my friend has done. Simply do not cooperate with a policy, but do so in a way that does not draw attention. Let your child know that they are responsible for their homework and that there will be consequences should they require you to get involved. That is not to say that you should not provide the occasional example, check and give feedback on the occasional assignment, or answer the occasional question. But the operative word is and should always be occasional.
This next story coming from the Omaha World Herald. The headline is College Students Partner on Exhibits. College history students this semester have the chance to create 2 exhibits to be featured at the Durham Museum next year. The museum is partnering with the University of Nebraska at Omaha and Creighton University on its community classroom program, in which students from both schools will research and prepare exhibit material. The final projects will be included in the museum's 2018 exhibit lineup. Students at UNO are working on Women in Omaha, a biographical sketch of persistence through history, which will cover the experiences of women in the United States. Students in the UNO Service Learning Academy this spring interviewed notable Nebraska women or their descendants. Together oral histories, said Carrie Myers, director and curator of educational services at the museum. This semester, another class of service learning students led by Elaine Nelson, assistant professor of history and executive director of the Western History Association, are writing texts that will place the interviews into historical context. At Creighton, history students this fall will complete Omaha in the I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce this word. Anthropocene. Any guess on that spell on that word?
It's all yours.
They come up with really interesting ones at the university level. Anyway, the exhibit centers on a proposal labeled "For the Current Geologic Era," based on the idea that humans have significantly affected Earth's environmental history. Students of Adam Sunderberg, assistant professor of history and digital humanities at Creighton, will select an object from the Durham's archives and research how that object connects to humanity's global impact, Sunderberg said. An old butternut coffee can, for example, could be used to tell the story of the coffee bean from its domestication to its distribution as an international commodity. It's easy to go to a museum and see historical objects and say, this is part of my past. But all of those objects are also very concretely related to how we live today, Sunberg said. The challenge for students at both schools, Myers said, is to take broad, complicated topics and make the information interesting and digestible for the public. It gives the students the opportunity to bridge between the classroom and real life, Myers said. It's an opportunity for the students to speak directly to the community.
From Los Angeles, Jay Thomas, a radio talk show host and actor with recurring roles on the sitcoms Murphy Brown and Cheers, has died, his publicist said. Thomas was 69. He was one of the funniest and kindest men I had the honor to call both client and friend for 25 years plus, publicist Tom Estey said in a statement Thursday. He did not provide further details. Thomas was fighting cancer, the New York Daily News reported. Thomas's best-known roles were as Eddie LeBeck, the former hockey player, husband of barmaid Carla on Cheers, and tabloid talk show host Jerry Gold on Murphy Brown, for which he won 2 Emmys. Diane English, creator of Murphy Brown, said in a Twitter post that she was heartbroken to hear of his death and called him gifted. I would have loved to write another role for him. Rest in peace, Jay, she tweeted. In recent years, hosted a Sirius XM radio talk show, was a reliably worthy guest. His annual Christmas time appearance on Letterman Late Show with David Letterman became a tradition that included a contest to knock a meatball off a Christmas tree on stage. The custom began one night in 1993 when New York Jets quarterback Vinny Testaverde was a guest. He and Letterman picked up footballs and began tossing them at the oddly decorated tree, aiming for the meatball. Impatiently watching their failures from the wings was Thomas, former quarterback at tiny Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte, North Carolina. He ran on stage, picked up a football, and in one throw accomplished what the NFL quarterback couldn't do in several. Thomas was invited back annually for the duration of Letterman's Late Show run to try to repeat his feat. With each appearance, he also retold a tale of his time as a radio DJ in the South when he and a friend gave a ride to Clayton Moore, star of TV's Lone Ranger. Letterman hailed it as the best story I've ever heard. Thomas called his annual Late Show ritual the craziest thing I have ever been a part of in an interview a few years ago with the Associated Press. Born John Thomas Terrell in Kermit, Texas, he began his radio career as a sports announcer for high school football and college basketball while attending schools including Gulf Coast College and Jacksonville University to earn bachelor's and master's degree, according to his online biography.
Okay, just a couple, 3 items that are coming to the Durham Museum in 2018. Something to look forward to as we cross over into the new year. The first one is an exhibit, Women in Omaha, a biographical sketch of persistence through history. That will be February 3 through July 29. I mentioned that earlier. That's the exhibit that will feature oral histories of Nebraska women speaking about their experience in Western United States. Also in February 17 through July 15, Fighting the Right to Fight, African American Experiences in World War II. Developed by the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, this exhibit documents the wartime experiences of African Americans, many of whom enlisted in hopes of seeking equality. The American Adventure will be there at the museum from March 17 through July 29th. That exhibit is a very immersive role-playing experience that challenges visitors to survive 1 year as one of the original Jamestown colonists. Coming later in the year, Fighting for the Good Life, Nebraska and the Great War, August 18 through January 27, 2019. That exhibit commemorates the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I by highlighting the war's effects on Omaha and the region. The museum is asking anyone with relevant objects to reach out to World War I at durhammuseum.org. And then finally, in late September, the Thomas D. Mangelson, A Life in the Wild. A museum is hosting the world premiere of acclaimed nature photographer Thomas D. Mangelson exhibit, which features his 40 most resonant images. Mangelson's career spans more than 40 years and all 7 continents.
We're moving now to the business section of our papers. Amazon is moving swiftly to make big changes at Whole Foods, saying it plans to cut prices on bananas, eggs, salmon, beef, and more as soon as it completes its $13.7 billion takeover next week. Looking ahead, Amazon hopes to give Prime members special savings and other in-store benefits. This moves fit in Amazon's track of record, keeping prices low to lock in customer loyalty. It's an opening salvo in the grocery wars, said Neil Saunders, managing director of Global Data Retail, and shares of other supermarkets fell on the news. Rivals should be under no illusion that they are now dealing with a competitor that is not afraid to damage profits and margins if it creates long-term gains, Saunders said in an analyst note. Amazon's announcement that it plans to close the deal Monday comes a day after Whole Foods shareholders approved the deal, and the Federal Trade Commission said it would not block it. Amazon will pay Whole Foods shareholders $42 per share, marking an 18% premium from its stock market price the day before the tie-up was announced on June 16th. They were at $41.98 on Thursday. By buying Whole Foods, Amazon is taking a bold step into brick and mortar with more than 460 stores and potentially very lucrative data about how shoppers behave online. Whole Foods, meanwhile, had been under intense shareholder pressure to improve results and retain customers who have more choices about where to get their foods. Discount chains like Lidl and Aldi have been expanding in the U.S. as well.
For those of you following the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Averages are up 56.10 points. The NASDAQ is down 4.60, and the Standard & Poor's 500 is up 6.83 as of this time. Iowa okays a $208 million tax break for Apple. Iowa approved a deal Thursday to give Apple $208 million in state and local tax breaks to build 2 data storage centers near Des Moines and create at least 50 jobs, a pact that critics quickly panned. The deal approved by the Iowa Economic Development Authority includes a refund of $19.6 million in state sales taxes for Apple Incorporated and a $188 million break on property taxes from Waukee, a booming suburb west of Des Moines. In addition to the promised 50 jobs, Apple has agreed to buy 2,000 acres of land for $1.4 billion enough to allow for future development, said Debbie Durham, the state's economic development director. At the event was Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Outside the Capitol building, Apple CEO Tim Cook credited Iowa's world-class power grid and what he called the state's culture of developing computer programmers who have created applications ranging from education to entertainment. Quote, "At Apple, we admire what you guys have accomplished and we want to be a part of it," unquote, Cook told cheering supporters. Neither he nor the governor took questions. Cook promised to invest $100 million in newly created public improvement fund to be used for community development, including the revitalization of streets, libraries, and parks. The first project will be a youth sports complex. Critics question the wisdom and fairness of giving such tax breaks to one of the world's richest companies. It's a straightforward giveaway to a company that's extraordinarily wealthy, and it makes no sense from an economist's point of view. It only makes sense from a politician's point of view, said David Swinson, an economist at Iowa State University and critic of such large economic development project tax breaks. Reynolds defended the use of the state's $19.6 million in tax credits at a time when the state budget shortfall may require a special legislative session to address, saying it's a minimal investment for the return Iowa will get. Quote, "We want to grow this economy and provide more revenue. Then we should be doing what we can to bring jobs and businesses to the state of Iowa," according to the governor. Quote, "This puts Iowa on the world stage. This gives us the opportunity with a global company like Apple to say we are the place to be." Facebook and Microsoft have already built billion-dollar data centers in the state of Iowa.
We're moving now to sports. He apparently was an absolute demon in intramural flag football, but it wasn't enough for him. He still had an itch for the real thing. After all, Jeremiah Stovall was a first-team Super State selection at Creighton Prep in 2014. Nevertheless, he attracted scant interest from college programs. Nebraska never contacted him about being even a walk-on. But in the fall of 2015, he came to Lincoln anyway, enrolling in classes as a regular college student, albeit with strangely strong prowess in intramurals. That October, though, he caught wind of a tryout being held on campus. This was the real deal. This was the Huskers. He evidently was well prepared for the real deal because he not only made the team, he is now working with the Nebraska's second tier of cornerbacks behind first stringers Lamar Jackson, Eric Lee, and DiCaprio Boodle. "It's crazy," Stovall added. "I'm blessed." The 5'11", 185-pound Stovall often is on the field with Avery Anderson, a four-star defensive back recruit in Nebraska's class of 2015. Stovall is a roommate of Jackson, the most decorated player in NU's class of 2016. As for Stovall, "When I was in high school, I wasn't really recruited much," he said, "so I was kind of iffy about playing in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, well, I'm just going to step away from football, just go to Lincoln, be close to home, be a student." It was hard to do, even harder than he initially expected. "I got bored being a student," he said, his voice trailing. Good news arrived from his father, Christopher Stovall, who alerted Jeremiah about the tryout. "I wanted to see if I could play at the Division I level," the younger Stovall said. He said he called around the stadium in search of information about the tryout and eventually got in contact with Chris Brassfield, then the Huskers Director of High School Relations. After receiving details about the tryout, Stovall showed up, did some drills, ran a 40-yard dash, the gamut. About 50 prospects on hand, he said. Ultimately, 3 were invited to join the Huskers for workouts starting in January. Punter Isaac Armstrong of Lincoln and defensive back Tanner Slab of Wilbur were the others. Stovall added depth in the secondary last season, but didn't play in a game. But he's moved up the depth chart, which shouldn't be surprising when you consider that as a senior at Creighton Prep, he had 6 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, 2 blocked kicks, and 45 tackles for the Class A state runner-up. Stovall follows in the footsteps of his brothers, Zach Stovall, who walked on as a defensive back at Nebraska 5 years ago. Zach told his younger brother what to expect, and Jeremiah listened intently. I'm one of his biggest fans, Jackson said. He comes in each day and works hard. It's starting to pay off. He's starting to move up the depth charts. He hasn't disappointed anybody yet. Jackson said Stovall has a different hunger. We don't look at him like a walk-on and nothing like that. He's one of us. He matches our energy. He tries to do what we do. Like I said, it's paying off. Stovall believes in the importance of a powerful work ethic on the field, in the weight room, and in the film room. I never expect anything, he said. I just try to come out here every day and work hard. Just try to do my best. You keep working hard, and eventually it pays off.
And I will try to cover 2 different stories on 2 nationally ranked teams here in the state of Nebraska. One is the University of Nebraska at Lincoln volleyball team, and the other one is the Creighton University volleyball team, both of whom are ranked in the top 10 nationally. The first one deals with the Creighton Blue Jays, and the title of that is "The Jays Believe They'll Live Up to Expectations." Creighton's star outside hitter was thinking and talking about reaching the Final Four when she was a freshman. So she hasn't exactly needed to alter that mentality now that there's been an influx of external hype and affinity for this CU program. Jaylee Winter's teammates are the same way too. The veteran core of this 9th-ranked Blue Jay squad, which opens its regular season Friday, had every intention to elevate Creighton's standings within the college volleyball hierarchy. And that was well before this 2017 campaign, which now projects to be one of the best that the Jays have ever produced. Even as high schoolers, they were sold on Creighton's breakout potential. So no one's feeling out of place now that they're expected to compete on the same plane as the sport's dominant powerhouses. Why not aim for the Final Four? We all believe it. We all know what we can accomplish together, said Winters, an honorable mention All-American last year. It's not crazy to us at all, said senior Kinsey Crawford. It's an expectation, really, more than a goal. It's the mentality that they believe has led to the recent success, and it's what is needed for Creighton to sustain this. The Jays reached the Sweet 16 2 years ago and the Elite 8 last season. They've dominated the Big East, and they've cracked the top 10 for the first time in school's history at the end of the 2016 season. The players still want to ascend higher, which is why they treated summer workouts like regular season practices, even without the coaches around. And it's why strength coach Brad Smith was bringing up the Final Four benchmark at the first sign of a drop-off during the past few months, weightlifting sessions. And why Crawford and sophomore Brittany Witt were last week shrugging off the discomfort emanating from their forearms after a pass-heavy session one day earlier, and why nobody's even talking about or goofing around when Coach Kristen Berthel Booth is addressing the team, and why every practice seems to feature the same amount of energy and intensity as the one before it. Quote, our culture the last few years has been pretty special, and the result is we just get to coach, unquote, Berth said. I believe it's been a huge part of success to our program. But the secret is out now. The Jays are a top 10 team, and now they have to navigate through the challenging non-conference schedule with that high-profile label. They'll play St. Mary's on Friday at the Husky Invitational in Seattle before matching up against Pittsburgh, a 2016 NCAA tournament team, at noon, and number 3 Washington at 9 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. It'll be different this year, said Winters, acknowledging that opponents will be motivated to secure the upset win that Creighton's been piling up over the last couple of years. The Jays' focus is on themselves, though, Winters says. If they're committed to making the most of practices, conditional drills, strength training exercises, and film study, they have a good shot. They believe they can control their own destiny. Now they have to prove it. Winters and her teammates have been pleased with what has been shown in the preseason so far. We're right on track, she said.
From Las Vegas, Conor McGregor is making a lot of wise guys nervous in this gambling city. Should he somehow manage to knock out Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the early rounds Saturday night, the city's bookmakers would lose millions of dollars in the biggest single event loss in the history of sports betting. McGregor fans have flooded sportsbooks with $100 bills backing the mixed martial arts fighter, and even a late surge of money on Mayweather may not be enough to balance the books. I'm okay now, said William Hill oddsmaker Nick Bogdanovich. But if you want, you might want to have a heart monitor on me when the bell rings and Conor starts throwing wild lefts. Bogdanovich said his chain of sportsbooks will suffer multi-million-dollar losses, their worst ever, should McGregor win the fight in any fashion. If he wins early, as he has promised, the losses would be even worse. The big bettors are putting their money on Mayweather, who is 41-0 as a pro. So many McGregor fans are betting small amounts that the betting slips at William Hill were 18-1 in the Irish fighter's favor. This isn't professional money, just the regular Joe, Bogdanovich said. The butcher and the barber are putting their $100 on McGregor, and it's added up. The action is reflected in the odds, which bookmakers adjust either way as money comes in on the two fighters. Bookmakers have been lowering the odds steadily since the fight was announced, but even that hasn't stopped the deluge of McGregor bets. A fight that began with Mayweather an 11-1 favorite is now 5-1, or even less in some sports books. Even that hasn't stopped the McGregor supporters from lining up at the betting windows to hand over even more cash. They're betting a long shot, hoping that the payoff will be huge. There's plenty of money on a guy who has never been in a boxing ring, said Jimmy Vaccaro, oddsmaker at the South Point Resort. It's uncharted waters, and that's what makes it so interesting. Vaccaro said his sportsbook stood to lose about $400,000 on a McGregor win, but that was balanced off a bit by a bettor who put $100,000 Wednesday night on Mayweather. His book also took an $880,000 bet on Mayweather earlier that would pay off just $160,000 if he wins. There's also been big Mayweather bets at the MGM Grand, including a $500,000 wager on Wednesday. MGM Resorts oddmaker Jay Rood, though, said the sheer volume of McGregor bets is overwhelming the big Mayweather bet. Rood said his books have taken 6,700 bets on McGregor and only 300 on Mayweather. The average bet on McGregor is $125, while the average for Mayweather is $4,000.
And it is high noon, and we thank you very much for your time. My name is Howard Bachman.
And this is Bev Leidig saying goodbye for today, and we'll hope to be with you again soon.
All right. Thank you, Bev and Howard. It's a wonderful reading this morning. You are listening to the Radio Talking Book Services. The studios in Omaha, Nebraska, serving the sight-impaired for 40
What happened to
years.
that break that we were going to have?
KIOS
It was there.
and NET
Just went fast,
for
didn't it?
their services in broadcasting this service. across the Nebraska, and the broadcast is also available online from rtbs.org. It is noon and time to move to regular programming.
You're welcome. Have a good day, folks.
Yes. All right.
Welcome to Community Conversations. This is Jane Nielsen, the Executive Director with Radio Talking Book Service. And thank you very much, Paul, for letting us do this today. And today our special guest is Jill Schreck. And Jill is with Hometown Help Nebraska, correct?
Hometown Help is the official name, and then legally it's Hometown Help Nebraska.
Okay, cool, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming in today, Jill. We're very excited to have you in. I met Jill and learned a little bit about her business, and I thought that our listeners would also be interested. And because we're guests in their home or apartment or wherever they live, I always like them to know a little bit about who they've invited into their home today. So would you start out, Jill, by telling just a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yes. Well, I'm a Nebraska native. I was born and raised in a little farm community called Cedar Rapids, Nebraska, which is kind of northeast Nebraska or central Nebraska, some may call it. I'm the youngest of 10 children, and my parents were farmers. And unfortunately, my father died at a young age, and I was 4 when he passed away. So eventually, over time, my mom moved me and my 2 siblings that were still at home to Fremont, Nebraska, which is outside of Omaha. And so I lived there until I graduated from high school and met my husband when I was 16. And we got married a few years later, and we've been married for 30 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. We have 2 children, adult children now, and they're both married to wonderful people. So we raised our children in Arlington, Nebraska, which is outside of Fremont also. And so I've just been very fortunate. I've worked in very different fields, insurance and state government, and just took care of my mom as she got older. She had some heart disease and Alzheimer's, and it was my opportunity to kind of help her because I was too young to help on the farm. And she helped me when my kids were small, and she would take care of them when they were sick from school or something like that. So I've lived a very great life, very proud to be Nebraska, and just fortunate to be where I am today.
Yeah, I was very fascinated by your long history of caring for others, and also your work for the state and with other companies too. So you have a very good background, I think, for doing what you're doing. It's like someone that starts at the bottom in a company and works their way up. You know everything, all the aspects about the job and about what you're doing. Did you go to college, Jill?
I did. I went to college later in life.
Me too.
Yeah, I got married very young. I was married at 19, and so had my children. And as I decided I wanted to do more than clerical type work, I decided to go to college and set an example for my children. So I did go to Bellevue University and got my bachelor's and my master's, all working full time and being a full time mom. So, and that was important to me, and was something I'm very proud of.
Yes, as well you should be. Were you able to do some of your work online?
Yeah,
Okay.
my bachelor's was like Saturday courses, but my master's was all online.
Nice, nice. I did almost the same thing. I actually got married when I was 16.
Yeah.
But I went to college and got my bachelor's degree the year I turned 50. And I went to a community college earlier on, so 2 different stints at school. But it is a good example for your kids, and it's also proof that you're never too old to learn.
That's right.
And I almost think that it can mean more to you when you're older. I mean, you're more focused and driven, and I kind of feel sorry for kids. I don't really feel sorry for them, but you think about going off to school at 18 years old. What do you know? You may not know. Some kids do, but a lot of times they don't.
And I would say I really didn't even know what I wanted to do then. I did take community college courses because I wasn't sure I could make it through college.
Same here.
Yeah, I took a class or 2 here and there, and then as I got to a certain point, I went on to get my bachelor's through Bellevue. But my degrees are very general because I didn't know what I wanted to be. And frankly, until I started this company, I truly didn't know. And until now I know where I belong, what I should be doing, and doing what I should be doing. But until then, I was just doing what kind of came up, and I enjoyed every job I've ever had. Loved it. Very rewarding jobs. But this is my true calling.
And you learned, I know we talked about this too, you learned something from every job that you had, and you take that forward with you into launching your own business. So tell us a little bit more about what you did for the state, because I know that comes into play as well with what you do today.
Well, I started doing data entry for unemployment in Fremont. I worked in the so-called unemployment office, and people used to fill out weekly, cards to say they were unemployed, whether it was on a long-term basis or they were just on a temporary layoff. So I would do that, and then I did welfare to work for a while, and I went back to unemployment. They moved into call centers in about 2001, and so I commuted to Omaha from Arlington. And then that's when I went back to school and went to my bachelor's degree, and a management opportunity came up. So I got a management position in Omaha or in Lincoln. So I commuted from Arlington to Lincoln, which is an hour and 15-minute drive each way.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And then I decided to pursue my master's degree. And after that, my mom passed away, and I decided that I was ready for another opportunity, and I went to work for Health and Human Services, and I overseen Children and Family Services Department, which is like I worked on the economic assistance side, so overseeing welfare type programs like child care, food stamps, which is called SNAP, and other kind of programs like that. So it was very rewarding, challenging jobs for sure, but it gives you appreciation and knowledge of what's out there. And it was a statewide program, so you learn more about the state and the different challenges that citizens of Nebraska face.
And there's so many people that work in that industry, and sometimes they get a bum rap.
Mhm.
And so it's wonderful to hear you talk about how much you did care and enjoyed it and learned from it, and how rewarding it was for you. Because, all those people are still people.
Yeah. And, and I dealt with other things on the bureaucratic side of it too. And it's, you don't want to lose sight of what it's really all about. And I'm doing find ways to, make the process easier, but also, to help these people get back on their feet. Sure. Because these programs are not set up to be lifetime programs, and you want them to be in a situation that they can provide for themselves and be in a better position, because you don't get paid enough on state programs to live there, a lot. So you want to help them get into a position that they'll be better off themselves.
And there are lots of programs to help them. And it's important that they know about that and are hopefully able to take advantage of them.
Right, and you want the advantage to be provided for it, and it's a good opportunity for them to get what they need, so those families can be provided for until they get back on their feet.
Exactly. And many of our listeners, I'm sure, deal with those programs as well, and thank God we have them, because there are definitely people that aren't able to work or were able to work at one time and no longer can, and so that safety net and that support is there for them. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about how you cared for your mom and the things you did?
Yeah, I had a wonderful mom, and like I said, she was pretty much my only parent. My father died when I was 4, and she never remarried. And since I was youngest, I had a lot more alone time with my mom than my siblings did. So, and she was a great grandma since, I had older siblings, and she retired as a farmer at a younger age, which she well deserved to retire young since she had so many children. Had all these farms when my father died so young. So she was a wonderful grandma to my children as well. But she aged, and her family has a lot of Alzheimer's, and we have heart disease in my family. So she was able to help my kids when they were young. And then as she aged, since we lived close proximity wise, my husband and I were able to help her a lot. So, my husband helped fix her car, fix things at her house. We mow her yard, paint, do things. And then also help with her. I do her medicines. I did, help her with her doctor appointments. Her heart doctor's in Lincoln, so I would take her to Lincoln a lot of times, and it was kind of convenient. I worked in Lincoln because I would take her to Lincoln, drop her off at my sisters, or 2 sisters in Lincoln, and they'd stay with her until her doctor appointment, and then get off work. We'd go to the doctor. So, but at the end, as her Alzheimer's progressed, that became a lot harder, and so it just it got to the point she had to go assisted living, and I'm so grateful for places like that. She didn't want to live with us. She didn't want me living with her. She was a very independent woman, and she didn't necessarily want to be on assisted living either. And those are hard decisions for family to make, but she needed to be where she was safe and eat properly and make sure she's taking her medicines right, because even though I did her medicine, she wasn't always taking them right. So it just got to that point that she needed my care and love, of course. And she also needed me to help her with her other things like banking and things like that. So I felt very fortunate that I had a support system around me, whether that was my husband, neighbors, other family, my employer, the Department of Labor, who I worked for when my mom was living, and they were terrific. And they supported me so I could take care of my mom and take off work when I needed to. And I just felt, that was huge for me, so that when the day came that mom wasn't living anymore, she passed away 8 years ago, I felt like I did everything I could for her. Right. And I had that. And so that's, I felt like, I'm doing what I'm doing now. Not everybody has that support system like I had from my mom.
How long was your mom in assisted living?
Just about 1.5 years.
Oh, okay, so not very long.
Not very
so
long.
she was able to live on her own for a long time.
Yeah,
because she had that support.
she did, and she was again a very independent woman. So it was a hard for us to do as a family to have her there.
Yeah. Wow. So tell us about your business.
Well, I started this after I left the state and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. I was trying to find what my passion was. And I have a sister who I admire greatly, who lives in California. She always suggested I start my own business years before before I left the state. And she suggested I own a restaurant or something. Although I love food, I didn't really want to own a food business. So I just kind of started looking at what I want to own as a business, and I wanted it to be something I was passionate about, so that it was not really work, because you know what they say about if you can find a job you love, it's not work. And so I looked at different franchises and really didn't find anything that fit what I enjoyed. And so my sister has a personal assistant who helps her with her business as well as her personal things. And then when I go to a place like Hy-Vee and they have personal shoppers, and I see that's very popular, especially in West Omaha, which is kind of area I live in. I just thought there's people willing to pay for convenience, and people are busy. It's an indicator that people are really busy, and young families or older people who maybe have a hard time getting out. And because I don't have my parents anymore and I don't have young children, I really missed all of that interaction that I had with my mom and with my children when they were small. I'd take them out from school, ask them about their day, what they had for lunch, taking them to activities. And for my mom, the doctoring and having that conversation with her, I just really missed it. And so I thought, this is what I want to do. And so I just kind of did a little research on it through the Small Business Administration, who was excellent. They taught me a lot about running a business. And so I started my business, and I connected with some networking groups. And so I've just been working on expanding, and this been up for just about a year and a half now, and have moved to Omaha about 4 years ago. So I really didn't know anybody in Omaha. And through all of this, I've met hundreds of people, just fabulous people, caring people. And just my business has grown a lot. I do a wide range of services, and through that I've met wonderful people who, just have caring families. Nebraska, I'm proud to be Nebraskan. And Omaha is just a wonderful city. It's really a small town and just good people.
It is a small town and you run into people all the time that are from somewhere else or from here and moved away and came back. But even that, if they're so often the people I meet anyway are from another small town somewhere. So it's like Omaha is made up of all these people from maybe another small town, and so they get it. That's how they were raised, and I think that's part of the reason why we are known for being friendly and being nice, because people had that upbringing.
Absolutely.
As you were talking about the services and things and how you missed that with your family and why you chose to do this, I think of like a nanny. My daughter was a nanny for a year. She had her own apartment in the house. She had her own car. Both parents worked. One was a lawyer and a legislator. The wife worked for Xerox, and they had 3 small children. And she took them to the doctor and the dentist and their tennis lessons, all their stuff. And so that's similar. And then you think of personal shoppers, or like now the online shopping with the Hy-Vees and the bakers have all those services. So and then there's in-home care, and we're in some of the same groups, and there's a lot of agencies, there's a lot of businesses that do those same kind of things, that even security systems, because people are living longer in their own home, they're not living with family, and you need that support.
You really do. And so a variety of things I do, like just security systems, mentioning that. I take care of a lot of pets, and a lot of people go out of town or they're just working late and need somebody to check in on their pets. And being a farm girl for part of my life, I love pets. I'm not really spooked by any kind of animal, maybe snakes, but I haven't encountered that yet. But, people also, if you go in their house, but sometimes then there's packages on their front porch. Well, we're looking for that and want to take the packages. So, I can, I might take your pets, but you might also say, well, I might be getting a package. Can you make sure you get the package inside my house, check the mail? So I do all those things for my clients, watch for the packages, bring in their mail from outside, bring in their newspapers so people don't realize they're gone. Sure. Bring in their garbage from outside. It's a variety of things just to give an indication that things are cared for at their home if they're not home, whether it's for a day, a few extra hours, or for a week. I do all those things for them, but also take care of that parent, because when my mom had Alzheimer's, it's wearing on you when your parent isn't the same person you're used to them being. And it can be depressing because your mom's not that same person, and she's repeating herself multiple times over. And sometimes you just need a break from that.
Mhm.
Well, I don't have that anymore, and I miss that about my mom. Yeah,
Sure.
I was wearing when she was around, but I miss it, and I would just really enjoy being that person to give you that break if you need it,
Mhm.
or you're not here. Maybe you don't live in Nebraska, but you need somebody to check in on mom or take her to those appointments. I want to be that person to do that, or just take her to lunch once in a while, or take her for a ride.
Sure.
Maybe she needs that. So I'm kind of that gap services. I'm not medically trained. I'm not a CNA, so I'm not a home instead.
Mhm.
I love children. I'm not a full-on nanny, but if you need somebody to pick up your child from school and take them to grandma's or take them to an event or hang out at the house for a couple hours, love to do that. Love
Mhm.
kids of all ages, infant to teenagers. I have a client who I pick up her son from school sometimes and take him to wherever he needs to go. And I have great conversations with him. We joke around about sports and just random stuff. We just have a great time, and it's it truly does not work to me. It's fun. It's very rewarding to me.
And every day is different because
It
you
is.
do so many different things for so many different
Mhm.
clients. Again, while you were talking, I was thinking about some of the services that have cropped up in the
Mhm.
last few years. Mobile vets,
Mm-hmm.
they go out and take care of pets at somebody's house. How many people have a house cleaner come in,
Mhm.
to clean
Yeah.
house, or a pet sitter?
Mm-hmm.
I know another friend that's what she does.
Yeah.
She'll go and stay in your home with
Yeah.
pets, or go and check on them like you
Mhm.
do,
Mhm.
or house sitters. There's so many personal services out there.
There really are.
Personal shoppers.
There
Yes,
is,
exactly.
and even for Christmas shopping, I know for my mom, she'd say, "Here's money, go get the grandkids gifts," because she didn't want to do that anymore. Another thing I do, I don't advertise it a lot, but I also help with weddings, just because that's, as far as like the day of. So my daughter got married 2 years ago, and there's a lot that you have to do as a mom, and sometimes you just want to spend that time with the guest and family members you don't see for a long time. And again, unfortunately, because there's people out there who have ill will, they watch for those presents on that table,
Sure.
or the gift card, or the wedding cards and things. And so I watch that and just kind of take some of the burden off the mom and the bride on wedding day, and coordinate and just let them enjoy the day. So I help with those things, or other events. Maybe there's a big event and you want your employees to enjoy it, so you hire somebody like me to help maybe a company party, so that you can let the employees enjoy the evening or the day or whatever it is. So it's just pretty much, my name is Jill, but it's kind of a jack of all trades. So Jill of all trades,
Jill
kind
of
of
all
thing.
trades.
Just to help. It's just another friend or family member or person, just to kind of help out with various things.
Are most of the clients that you get by word of mouth, Jill?
It really has been. Again, through all the networking I've done, I've just been very fortunate to meet wonderful people who refer me to others. So it has been through my networking groups and through different interviews I've done with others. It's because, like you said at the beginning, to invite somebody to your home and to trust somebody to come into your home and trust me, not just your home, but a loved one. Whether it's your parent or your child or your pet, because I have 2 dogs and they're like my children. It's huge. It's huge to trust somebody. So you really want to, most people want to know who that person is. Now, I have had referrals through like Next Door Neighbor app, things like that, through that kind of social media. So those are good things. But also I'm insured. So I'm insured for transporting people as well as being in your home. And I'm also CPR and AED certified. So I take my business very seriously, and but that doesn't take away from the caring part of it.
This is kind of a business question because my parents owned a business, and so for being insured to have somebody in your car or to be in their home, is that like being bonded for?
I'm not bonded, because typically bonded is if
That's
you have
if you're handling
employees,
cash, right?
or if you have employees. So you're
Okay.
saying I'm trusting me as an employer, having somebody else in your home, so to protect me as an employer, if that person would steal from you. But if I bonded myself, it's like not trusting myself to be in your home. It's like,
So that's not
yeah,
practical.
so it's more of a liability. Like
Liability.
if something happens while I'm in your home, that would happen. Or if I'm transporting you somewhere and we're in an accident and we're an official, I'm doing that as my service, then you're covered.
That's very smart, and I think on your behalf to do that.
I think it's important. I want to be a responsible business
Absolutely.
owner and protect the people that are trusting me with their livelihood and their things, their home.
Uber and Lyft, another couple of services that have just come up because of the need for people for transportation.
And those are very important services, but what I would say is different for me from them is I would be more like somebody you know on a regular basis.
Right.
And because, they can, I'm not the one who's going to pick you up, at the bar and take you home,
Right.
but I am definitely a person who, you want to call, you go to the doctor or get groceries, because I would be the person who, okay, well, can you help me get inside and maybe get something to eat or help me put my groceries away? I'm more that kind of person.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Uber and all those, they have a great purpose, and I think they're important. But everything I do is just a little bit different than all those other things.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I'm just using those as
Yeah.
examples as you talk. I think about there are all these other things going on. This isn't. I mean, it's
There's a
not.
lot of conveniences out there that are
Yes.
important.
But I think what you offer that some of these don't, maybe a nanny does. You're more of a companion to them as well,
Yeah.
or a friend, or a neighbor, somebody that not just hired to take them somewhere, but spends that little extra time with them and visit with them and develop a relationship with them.
It is, and that's exactly, it's a relationship, and somebody that you can call and feel like you can trust to say, I just can't get there today. Can you pick mom up, or can you pick up, John from school? It's somebody, if you call Uber, taxi, or something, you never know who you're going to get. It's
Right,
different. But this is somebody you're going to build a relationship with, and say it might be, every 3 weeks. It may not be every week or every day, but it's somebody you can call and trust. Either.
I imagine some people that have called you and used you for one thing, then it may grow into something else.
Yeah.
Oh, could you do this, or can you do that? And it very much is like your personal assistant to
It really
a family.
is. It's just like asking your sister to come over and say, can you help me with this? Because it definitely does grow into that. I had an individual who actually my first official client, and it started with taking things to storage, or to a donation center. Parents were moving into, an assisted living type place. So I took some items from parents' home to a donation center. And then the next thing was, to let out the dog. And then the next thing was, help her with the party. And the next thing was picking up her son from school. So it was things and water her flowers while she's out of town. It is. It's like, oh, well, do you do this? And just ask. I might do it.
Right.
If it's legal and I'm trained for it. I'm certainly not going to volunteer to do something I'm not properly trained for. But if it's something I can do, I'll likely do it.
Do you charge by the hour, or by the task, or by is there a structure to it that you can share?
Yeah, I charge by the hour. I charge $25 an hour. I don't charge mileage on top of that. So it's strictly an hour. Now, depending on how far it is from where I office out of in my home office, it's typically from when I get to your place to the end of the visitor time. But if it's a distance, say if it's downtown, I'll charge from when I start. So it varies. So it can start from when I start my transportation or otherwise. So that can vary. If you're a regular customer, there's some breaks in that too. Weddings, there's an additional charges because it's usually a total day event. But for the most part, $25 an hour. I do have to charge a tax on pet services. That's a Nebraska law. And that's based on your zip code. But other than that, I'm very flexible. I request at least a 24-hour notice if possible. I do know there's times you can't. But if I'm booked, obviously, I'm going to honor the people I already have appointments with. But if I'm open, and I do weekends and nights, because sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes that's when you have that need to go to the store, or grandma needs something. So I do those things. I just need notice and make a request for it. So it's, I think I'm pretty flexible, and I try to be reasonable because, my clients have different spectrums of income, and I just want it to be something that it's affordable to people who need my services. I don't do any kind of government, I don't do government funding type things. It's strictly private
And no insurance then either. Insurance wouldn't cover this type of
No,
service.
right.
Right.
No, I don't do
Okay.
any of those things. So it's strictly private pay.
Mhm.
And I take cash, check or credit card. So it's, I try to be really flexible because I want to, be able to help the people that need my help.
Mhm. Mhm. What's the most unusual thing you've been asked to do, if you can share that?
I don't know that I have anything real unusual.
Nothing outside of what you've already talked about, really?
No, I can't. It changes all the time, but I wouldn't say they're unusual. I mean, it just changed. I've taken care of fish. I've never taken care of fish before, but I've taken care of fish, and now I want my own fish tank because that was really enjoyable. I didn't think I'd ever want a fish tank, but I thought it was really a cool thing to do. I'm taking somebody to church, and it's not the church I belong to, but I'm very open to going because it's something that's important to this person, and I always think it's good to learn about other faiths, people, ways of life. I like to know more about just what the world is all about, and so I'm always open to that. One thing I do is I volunteer in different things. So through HETRA, which is the Heartland Equine Therapeutic Riding Academy, with the Wounded Warriors. So one individual who's a volunteer out there, he's a military veteran, and so I picked him up a couple times, I guess, from his home and took him out there so he could volunteer. That's part of what he does as a wounded warrior to go for therapy type things. I do that. I just do a wide range, and I just can't think of anything I haven't enjoyed. I mean, it's all been great. It's been fun.
So it sounds like you're almost available 24/7?
I wouldn't say overnight. I don't do overnight pet sitting.
Okay.
Because I have, my own home and pets and everything. So, if there would be some exceptional type thing and say it's an ongoing client, I would talk, we would maybe work something out, but I don't do overnight.
Okay.
I guess I would just have to, it'd be case by case situation.
Sure.
But if it's a weekend, like I said, I'm going to go to church with somebody this Sunday. And it's, I think that's great. So that's important to somebody to go, and if they want me to take them, I'll do that. So yeah.
And so if you're taking someone to a doctor's appointment or to church, you stay with them through for the duration too. So that's good because then you're not just dropping them off. You're seeing to it that they get there, participate, and then get home safely.
I won't typically go into the doctor office appointment with them unless they ask me to, but I don't want to be responsible for that information to relate back to the other family member perhaps. But I will go into the office waiting room with them, make sure they get in and then get back. So yeah, it's in my vehicle, I would say I have a small SUV, so it's not a tall vehicle. So it's easy for people to get in and out because that was important for my mom. I was her main means of transportation. I don't have a wheelchair thing on the back end, but it might be cool to fit a wheelchair in the back, on the back side, but it's not like a lift type thing. So, I can accommodate those people that have those or walkers. So I can get them to their doctor's appointments and get them home or stop by the store. And that's one of the conveniences is because I don't just drop them off and run, because those assisted living places, they're wonderful, but I notice myself when I go to a doctor, I see them drop them off and they wait and, go see the doctor, then they have to come back, wait in the waiting room until the assisted living place can come back, which is great that they have those services. But for me, I always feel bad for them. Like they're somewhere by themselves, and I know for my mom, I would never want that to be the case for her. So, it's up to each individual, but that's something I would want for my mom, is to somebody to be there with her.
Sure. And so no one has asked you to necessarily take notes for a doctor's appointment or anything like that then?
I have gone into an appointment with one lady, just because she asked me to, but I wasn't responsible for the information. Sure. What did she say? Well, here's what I remember, but I wasn't responsible.
Have you had some blind or visually impaired clients?
Not legally blind or visually impaired. Certainly some people who have some struggles with that, but not legally.
Okay. Well, but just so you have transported or helped with those, because I know with my work here at Radio Talking Book, I hear that often that transportation is such a challenge for the blind and visually impaired or those that are disabled.
Mhm.
And so that could be a very good service for people, for our listeners. So that might be something very, very helpful. And even with some of the transportation options that are out there, the the buses or Moby or those kind of things, they're scheduled and routes, and it's just not always the best or convenient. So, and again, and then you have the choices of a taxi or Uber or Lyft, and again, that you wouldn't have that relationship.
Yeah.
And I think back to when you and I were younger, you had communities in some ways were more, I don't know if connected is the right word, but neighbors knew neighbors and talked across the fence, and neighbors did things for people. Not that neighbors still don't,
Right.
but I'm thinking a lot of that kind of stuff was done by family or friends or neighbors until it got to a point where it was too much.
Right.
But more and more people don't live,
Mhm.
kids don't live by their parents, or parents don't live by the children, or one spouse is deceased, and they're able to stay in their own home, but there's still things they need help with.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the reason I named my business Hometown Help is because when my father died, he died of a heart attack, and it was in the spring, and we had 3 farms. And you might imagine how difficult that would have been for my mom to, get, plant crops, and we had livestock. And as you always hear on the news, when things like that happen, especially in small towns, people come together, and it's that hometown feeling. And so that's why I call my business Hometown Help, because that's what people do in hometowns is you pull together and you help those people who need your help. And so in Cedar Rapids, that's what they did for my family. And then when I lived in Arlington, which is also a relatively small town, it was, you had the sirens that went off, and, if my kids were home and they were, old enough to be home by themselves, but not old enough to drive, we had great neighbors who helped out. And that's what it's all about, is hometown. And that's what I want my clients to feel like, it is like a hometown. I can call Jill, and it's like going back home, and I got that help that I need. And that's what it's all about. It's just having that friendly face that you can count on, because if it is somebody who's in that population, if you're blind or you have other needs, that I need to get my hair done, but I know I go every 2 weeks to get my hair cut, I can call Jill for that. And I'm on Jill's schedule every 2 weeks. I have, that's what I'm going to plan on, and that's just what we're going to do. Every 2 weeks, you're going to see Jill. I'm going to pick you up and get your hair done. Maybe that's the day we go to the store and do other things, or you want to just go do something else fun, go out to eat. We'll go do that. And so we just get on the schedule and we'll take care of that.
So you mentioned that you like to have a 24-hour notice. How far out are you booked? Are most of yours like a regular thing like that, like every Thursday or every 2 weeks or something? Or
some are. I have one person like every Monday evening, but right now I'm booked. I guess something's booked in September, just because people know they're going on vacation, so they want me to check in on their pets or their home, or they just know certain things are coming up. I also have employers, businesses. They just got some, little tasks they want me to do, help with a project. And so I'm going to go every other Wednesday and help them with that. So I have those things that are booked in advance. So otherwise, sometimes it's just kind of short notice, and I try to accommodate, but short notice isn't always best, because I may not be able to accommodate, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to not be able to help you.
Right.
But so advance notice is good. But yeah, so like if you have something every third Wednesday, I can put it on my calendar and I just count on it.
Right. And I imagine you're very upfront and communicate with your clients in the beginning, so they know
Absolutely
how it works.
And another thing I would like to point out is I do a free consultation. So if you want to meet me first, make sure you're comfortable with me. Maybe you want a family member or neighbor or friend to be with you, to say, okay, can we meet? And here's what I'm asking for, Jill. Can you help me with this? And I can say yes or no. And it gives me an opportunity to meet you and make sure I am able to assist you. And I don't charge for that.
That's very good.
Yeah, so I can come to your home or whatever it is, location you want me to come to. And we have that conversation just to make sure you're comfortable with me, and I can make sure that's something I can help you with. And so, we can make sure that this is going to work. And I don't want to waste your time, and I want you to be comfortable with me, because if you're not, that's not going to work. I want you to be, comfortable.
Yeah. And you started your business about 1.5 years ago.
Mhm.
And you mentioned the Small Business Administration. They
Yes.
helped with
Mhm.
some stuff.
They're great.
Yeah, they are a great resource. How many hours a week are you averaging?
Well,
Do you-
last week I would say 60.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
last week was really busy, and it varies. I mean,
And it's the summer.
it is this summer. I just never know. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I'd say this week is probably more like 30.
Oh,
That's more like actual clients, but I do a lot of networking during the week.
Sure.
So I
That's work.
meet more
Mhm.
people and again meetings and things like this. Just to talk, so I can tell more people about what I do. So
Mhm.
hopefully I can help more people. So it varies. I do a lot of weekends, and I never thought I'd want to work weekends. Working for government, really work weekends until I got into the other higher positions than you do. But I never thought I would work weekends and holidays, and now I do all the time.
Mhm.
But again, it doesn't feel like work to me. I'm just helping a friend. So it's enjoyable. But yeah, it varies all the time. And some weeks, all I do is take care of pets. Last week, I took care of people mostly. So it just varies. It's very different every day.
Mhm. How late in the evening usually? Not
Sometimes it's 9 o'clock at night, and I will tell you, as I get older, 9 o'clock's going to be about my bedtime. But
sound like me.
yeah, and sometimes it's early morning because, like,
Mhm.
if you're letting dogs out,
Oh, sure.
you know, they need to be let out early in the morning
That's
and later at
true.
night because,
And throughout the day, probably too.
Yep. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it is.
Oh, sure.
But that's okay because I got dogs and I'm up early and
Yeah.
limit late at night too. So I had a lady last week. Her husband was in the hospital, so she'd get going in the morning and then take her to the hospital, visit her husband for a few hours. Then I go check in on her a couple of times, during the day, then one more time at night before she went to sleep, just so she was comfortable knowing she was okay and checked in on. So it just varies, but yeah, it's sometimes we're really busy. Some weeks are a little bit slower, and that's when I catch up on my other things.
Sure. I'm assuming your husband's real supportive.
Yeah, I mean it's a new adventure. He was military, 20-year veteran himself, and so this is kind of a whole new thing for us to be business owners. So it's a whole new adventure.
Mhm.
But he's great about it. He's good input, and he's very helpful with ideas.
I imagine you're a good resource for people too. Like if there's a service or something they need, do you help with that? Like if they need a handyman or?
Well, that's what's been great about networking. Is I've met a lot of those people. I have to say that, it's great to say like that. One of my groups is Centersphere. It's a large networking group with multiple chapters in Omaha, and through that group, I've met so many people who have different talents, and I can now say I know someone who does that.
Yes.
And somebody that I would, I can say, well, I trust because they're part of the same network I'm part of.
Exactly.
And
And you
great.
know them, and you've got to develop a relationship with
Because
them.
you take the time to go meet that person and get to know them. So it is great. I am a great resource now because I know those people. Like another great resource that I partner with is a lady who helps people find the right assisted living location for somebody.
Yes.
So she's a great resource for me because as I have clients that might be looking at having that need, I can refer her to them. And she also has people referring to me because they might be at that stage where they aren't quite ready to go there yet, but maybe they need some of those things that I can provide, like transportation to go to the doctor, or they might need some help sorting through the things before they move into assisted living, and that's something I can help with too. So you do meet, just again, most people. I don't know if I've met anybody who hasn't cared at the level I care. I mean, everybody's just great people who just want to help.
Well, that's good. Let's give folks your contact information before I forget.
Well, my phone number, which you can call or text me, and that's 402-720-2787. I have a Facebook page, which is Hometown Help Nebraska. My email is hometownhelpnebraska, just spelled out, @gmail.com. And my website is www.hometownhelpnebraska.com.
Well, that's awesome. You were able to use that name across all those
Yeah, I found that was
platforms.
Having grown kids, they're very smart social media wise. So they were a huge help in helping me get that going.
For sure. Well, I always keep information from all of our guests in the office too. So I always tell our listeners that if you didn't get this information down, especially the phone number, which is 402-720-2787, I do have Jill's information in the office, and you can always call Radio Talking Book at 572-3003, area code 402, of course. And I can share that information with you again if you would like that information. Have you thought about the future, Jill, as far as like, do you envision this growing to the point that you may need employees, or you expand to another part of the state or over into Iowa?
Yeah, I have thought about it. Last week was definitely a week I thought I probably should have another employee helping me, but I hate that part too, though, as far as because I really enjoy the people aspect. If I had an employee, I'd probably want them to do the bookwork side because I don't enjoy that part so much. But so I think eventually I will need that employee to help me, but and also in other cities, you know, from Fremont. So I've seen the need there myself personally. I'm still a doctor in Fremont, so as I sit at the doctor's office there, I certainly see the need there. And then Lincoln, of course, it's the next largest city in Nebraska. So certainly, I haven't looked into Iowa just because I have to look into all the rules and everything in Iowa, but certainly, you know, it's nearby. So I do think that there's obviously need everywhere.
Yes.
You know, there's everybody's in the same situation. The baby boomer population is what it is, and you know, the needs are more and more people want to stay home if they can longer in life. But families are working, and in the smaller families, there's not, you know, I have 9 kids and I have 8 siblings, and not everybody's always helpful, but you know, you run out of people to help. So if you only have, you know, 1 or 2 siblings, it's hard to find help from mom and dad. So that aspect just grows and grows. So I think there's more of a need for what I do. So yeah, I do think there's a likelihood that I'll grow with employees as well as going into other cities.
Or franchising.
Yeah, I think so. And I just totally believe in it. I just know it's
I know. Maybe I lost a little weight.
It's funny because I, over the years, thought of just running errands for people.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, how could you make money at that?
Yeah.
Here you are doing it.
I know.
But it'd be something different all the time and different people all the time.
And it's fun. You just meet the most amazing people, whether it's your clients or the people you network with. It's very rewarding.
And you mentioned people staying in their homes longer. Even insurance companies are finding that it's cheaper for people to stay in their own home. And so they're paying for more and more services, I think. Of course, there's different policies and things as well. But that is already a huge factor and will continue to be. But if somebody, you know, if you think about the cost of even spending a half a day with someone, but all that they could accomplish, you know, they could go to the post office, they could go to the grocery store, they could get their hair done, they could maybe go to the doctor, get their groceries put away, have that companionship, go to lunch, and enable them to stay in their home.
Absolutely. And it's because even if it's that, or like, you know, if I go to somebody's home and I'm checking on the pet and they're going to pay me for an hour, I'll water the flowers during that time, check on the pet, bring in the garbage. You know, I can do all that, and it's money well spent. And individual, the lady I had last week whose husband was in the hospital, her son was in Florida, so it's like, you know, in order for him to come home on such short notice, it would have cost him a lot of money.
Yes.
Whereas,
and then his loss of income.
Right. And so then for him to contact me and say, well, can you help? And I built this wonderful relationship with this lady. And I just, you know, I called her this week, say, how are you doing? And all that. And I do that with other ladies too. I call them Mother's Day and say, Mother's Day. But I'm not working with them anymore. I just still do it because they're wonderful people. And so it is. It's just it's well worth it to some people. And, you know, you just want to know that there's somebody nearby who can go check in on mom or do that in 4 hours and that can do all those things like you just mentioned. It's well worth it.
Absolutely well worth it. And the peace of mind and the person's going to feel so much better for being able to get those things done, that sense of independence, being able to do it. And the fact that, again, you're not just dropping them off at the grocery store or the doctor, you're going in with them because they sometimes need assistance. Do you do any light housekeeping?
I do light housekeeping. I still clean my own house, so I don't want to I'm not a full-on maid. But if somebody, you know, dust the furniture, put the dishes away in the dishwasher, help make a sandwich, I'm all for that.
Sure.
You know?
And there again, you're spending time with that person
That's right.
anyway.
Yeah.
And I think about my early days babysitting. And I was taught, you don't just, if the kids are in bed, you don't just sit there and watch
Right.
TV.
Yeah.
If there's dishes to do or you find a little
Yeah.
clothes to fold, you do those things up. And so there again, there's
Yeah.
that extension.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a farm girl, and we all have to work hard. So it's even if you're not caring for a person and you say, well, can you come to the house and wait for the utility person to show up?
Oh, sure.
That's something I do. Well, I got company coming, can you run the vacuum over the rugs? Certainly, I'd be happy to do that. So it's, I won't scrub the floors. I don't give my hands and knees to scrub floors. I do scrub floors in my house, but I don't necessarily do that everywhere. But I'll run the vacuum over. I'll put the dishes in the dishwasher. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
That's nothing. But so it's little things, certainly happy to do that.
Sounds very good. How about lifting?
I can lift. I'm, pretty physically fit. So,
So if you have to help a person
Yeah.
with a little lifting or, helping them physically sometimes if they're in a wheelchair or whatever.
I can do
You've
that.
been trained to do that.
I wouldn't say I was trained, but
You just know from your mom
yeah,
probably.
from my mom, and I've had some clients that need my help with
So
that.
you've learned.
I'd also, the other thing I can do is I have a military ID card since my husband's retired military, so I'm able to get on base. And then also another service, if you have a car that needs to go in for service, you need somebody to get it there and get it home. I can do that. I can drive a clutch, so I can do those things. So those are all things that, somebody just doesn't want to take time off from work to go do that. Those are things I can help with.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of everything.
Very interesting. What haven't we touched on? We've got a few minutes left here.
I would just say some other volunteer things I do. For the longest time when I was commuting back and forth to Lincoln and my job, I wasn't able to volunteer a lot, but once I left, I thought, I want to get back in volunteering. So I did volunteer, like I mentioned, Hetra already. I did volunteer there also as helping with the kids on the horses. And then also continue to volunteer with Girls Inc. I'm a mentor for a young lady. So usually every other week her and I spend some time together. And I just, she comes from a really, a nice family, and we just spend time usually at my house. We bake or play cards or play games, and, we do other things with the pumpkin patch, or I've taken her to Hetra myself before, the horse barn. And those are things, again, because I enjoy children. And so, that's something I hope to be a part of her life for, the rest of her life.
Sure.
The rest of my life. I'm sure she'll live much longer than I do. And then I have also volunteered at the Alzheimer's Association. And I'm not an active volunteer with them right now, but I, volunteer and I can with them. And I think volunteering is really important to just show people that you care and be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, I would agree. Any other ways that you're marketing your business?
Well, of course, the social media, the networking. I recently had an article in Edge magazine.
Yes, I read that.
Yeah, so I have an ad in there, and then they did a great story on, Kathy Rigg is the writer for that, and she did a great job of summarizing why I do what I do. And so that's been a great thing for me. But a lot of it really is the marketing is through word of mouth. But it's been great. Thanks for Neighbor app has been big. But it's been getting out and just talking to people and sharing information about my business.
How does Next Door Neighbor app work? I've heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It's basically, it's kind of like a Craigslist, but it's based on neighborhoods. So if you say, I'm looking for somebody to fix my fence, and people in your neighborhood or surrounding neighborhoods, you can decide what neighborhood you want to belong to, can give you referrals. So it's a great way of getting referrals from people who actually had something done by somebody. But you can also sell stuff on there. Usually I live in Sarpy County, so if the sheriff's office can say, beware, this is going on, or the sirens are going to go off for tornado testing or whatever. So it's just a great way of communication amongst others. So if somebody said, I need somebody that somebody knows me.
That's a lot of reading.
Watch my dogs. And then somebody can say, Jill Hometown Help can help with that. And that's one of the regular clients down through there. And so that was great. So it's a great tool.
Do you have a presence on that app then, or
You
just a
can-
personal?
You can put your business on there. You can't. They're picky about it. So I'm learning the hard way on that one. You can put your business out there, but the best way, you can't just put yourself out there all the time. You have to like list it as a business, but you can't promote yourself.
Oh, I see.
Somebody else has to basically refer you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yeah. So like other people that I've met, I refer them.
Mhm.
So if somebody said I'm looking for